Kia ora, listener. Welcome to Cinema in Context, where we discuss all things film and the connections between. My name is Jeremy Downing, and I am not joined by my regular co-hosts for this month's episode because we wanted to do something, I want to say a little bit different, but it's not that different because it's the third time that we've done it. But last year I had a wonderful conversation with regular podcast guest and fan Sophie Gray. She was up in Auckland, she lives in Christchurch, and we sat around my dining table and talked about the movies that made us, or more specifically, the key movies that made her. And it was a wonderful chat. It was about, almost a year ago now, so a little wee while ago, and it's been sitting in a file on my computer waiting for a rainy day, and that rainy day, or that rainy month, happens to be right now. So without further ado, please enjoy the third episode of The Movies That Made Us as part of Cinema in Context. Well, welcome, Sophie. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
And this time you are actually in person with me in my dining room in Auckland rather than through the interwebs of Christchurch.
I know, I'm so excited. It's great to be here. It's so nice to see you.
Nice. Hey, so last time we spoke was for Babe, Pig in the City and Furiosa.
Who could forget?
I mean, I don't forget because you infamously, the first thing you said was, I was so uninterested in talking about these movies.
Yeah. I was. It's true. But you know, the cinema in context, just the vibe of it really got me going. I had a great time.
Nice. And I mean, so I had that in the back of my mind and I thought I would love to get you back on to the podcast to actually talk about films you want to talk about. Thank you for joining us for the episode of The Movies That Made Us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And I need to give a shout out to a couple of people. So first of all, it's Brett Goldstein, who has his podcast, Films to Be Buried With.
Amen.
Have you listened to it?
Yeah, I love it.
Brilliant piece of podcast material.
Oh, yeah. Well, he is brilliant. Everything about that podcast is such a magic combination of he is such a cool guy and he is so compelling in terms of he's watchable and listenable and all that, but then the concept of the show is also beautifully crafted. So yeah, what's not to love? Yeah,
and he kind of has that element of, he's a comedian, he has that bit where he sort of tells them their death back to them.
Yeah.
Which is corny, but he kind of gets away with it.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I love it.
And the other person I want to shout out to is Johnny of My Movie DNA. So have you listened to his podcast?
No.
So he does this version of a podcast, but in a far more long form. And Sarah, William, and I have all been on the podcast.
Amazing.
Yeah. In fact, we recorded my episode on this very table.
Oh,
in this
great.
very room. Anyways, before we jump into the movies that we're going to talk about, how do we go back in terms of our movie connections, our love of cinema?
Well, you and I love stories and storytelling. Yeah. So, so listeners, Jeremy and I have known each other a very long time. We actually went to high school together. We've done musical theater together. We are both big lovers and appreciators of musical theater. And so I would say that's probably the first string in our bow in terms of our relationship and kind of as friends, the things that we love and appreciate and admire. But then, I mean, you've always been a cinephile, and I've known that about you forever. And I think that I can't quite remember when you sort of learned that I was also a real cinema appreciator. But I think it's the storytelling, right? I think that's what it comes back to, because ultimately when you and I are talking about films or theater or whether it's a play or a musical, we love talking about stories. We love talking about the way we're consuming that media, don't we?
Yeah. And I think there's a social consciousness as well, whether it's social justice or just sociology that kind of connects in with that often we're positioning our conversations about theater or film or musical theater, again, just to name our podcast in that wider context.
Yeah.
I have to come to December 2003. Would it have been? December, November, where I was very excited about the final Lord of the Rings film. And I'd planned to go and line up for tickets for the finale. And did I tell you, or I told Laura or someone, and I got there, and you guys had bet me to the chase, and you were there.
It's one of my proudest moments.
At the front of the line.
Not
It's
only
like 11 p.m. the night before.
Not only had we beaten you, so it was three of us. So it was Laura and Nicola and I, and
yes,
we had queued to be the first to buy the tickets. So listeners, this was not even to see the movie. This was to buy the tickets to then be able to see the movie.
It was the week before, I think.
Yeah, and so we queued up, and we were really excited to be first. And I remember when you and the guys showed up, I mean, I'll be chasing that high for the rest of my life because you were so gutted.
I was gutted.
You were gutted that anybody had beaten you, but I think you were especially gutted that it was us.
I think because you were only there because I had told you that we were going to be going at that time.
Oh, no. That's not my memory at all. My memory was that, like, Laura always wanted to be first.
Okay.
And that we had made this plan, the three of us girls. It was like, cool, like, we're going to do this together.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like I told you the time we were going and you guys made sure you were there before me.
I mean, I think we would have been anyway, but you tell yourself whatever you want. But it was just such a...
This is brilliant. This is actually...
It was such a fun little, like, rivalry.
It was
like,
amazing.
I mean, you know, like, it was just so funny. And I don't know... Well, my memory of what happened that night is that then you and the guys that you were with...
Who weren't as... They were not as keen as I was. They were just like, we're keen to stay out all night as teenagers.
And
on Main Road Nelson.
Listeners, you need to know that I'm not even that emotionally invested in the Lord of the Rings films. Like, for me, it was, like, more about the fun... friendship hang of like having this little like adventure that we're doing together.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just like excited to be there and I was like, oh, what a cool experience. We're gonna sleep on the street overnight to camp out for these tickets. It just seemed like a fun thing to do. And and I just remember that you were like, we are going to make so much noise. You girls are not going to get any sleep. You were so sore
Did I say that?
I mean, you probably didn't say fucking because you were a very polite boy, but you were peeved and you were like, we are going to make this night miserable for you. And Jeremy, I still got 8 hours because...
Yeah, I don't... Did you get 8 hours of sleep?
Oh yeah, I know how to sleep when I'm tired.
I don't remember being... asleep at all.
I remember sleeping so well that I like literally was like night and rolled over and then 8 hours later woke up, rolled back over and was like morning, and Laura and Nicola were like bleary eyed and so sleep deprived. They were like, there were so many noises and there were sirens and there were people, and I was like, oh, were there? I went to work that day.
I can't believe you slept through that. What I do, and now I'm remembering something which I've forgotten about, is that, so you were there first. I was gutted when we turned up. And so we were second in queue. Mm-hmm. And then another group of young people turned up who I didn't actually know some of them, but they just happened to turn up on their own accord. They were gutted that there were people in queue. It was like every person thought they were going to be the first.
Everybody had underestimated,
Who lines up in Nelson at 11 p.m. at night for a 10 a.m. opening the next day?
Well, do you know something? This is something I've not thought about in like the longest time because it was very long ago. But I remember when we actually got to the screening. Yeah. So then so we bought the tickets. Okay, and then I remember when we showed up to the screening. I remember being at the screening and seeing somebody who, I guess I knew, like wasn't close friends with, and because we'd had our photo taken, like we were in the paper because we were the first to queue up. And and I remember him kind of looking at me and sort of being a bit smug, like, oh, you slept out like overnight for these. And he was like, I'm literally sitting in the same row as you and I didn't have to do that. And I just remember thinking, cool story, buddy. Like I had a great time with my friends.
Yeah.
Cool. Who are you here with? Nobody? Like, have a nice life. Like, I just thought there was such a weird thing that he thought he was flexing. I was like, I mean, it's not a competition. And I had a great experience, so, yeah.
We're still talking about it today. Like, what is it, 20 years later? Yeah. And this is the thing, right? So we don't really line up for stuff anymore. Hey, it's all just online. You go onto online queues.
Yeah.
When was the last time you lined up for that sort of
I remember vividly when Jane and I queued for Flight of the Conchord tickets on Hardy Street in Nelson, and that must have been in like maybe 2008 or 2009, and like to buy them at Everyman Records, and that queue was insane.
Yeah.
There was such a buzz, and it was like everybody was like real antsy, and and the longer the queue got, then you'd hear people getting like real nervous at the other end, like what if they didn't get tickets? And and the venue was very big, so everybody got tickets, but not everybody sat in the third row like Jane and I, so we were pretty stoked in our matching Flight of the Conchord t-shirts. Yeah.
Where did they perform? Trafalgar Centre?
Trafalgar Centre, yeah, and it was really good.
For the niche Nelson listeners out there, you were getting some venue history.
Some top quality content.
State Cinemas Nelson.
Yeah.
Hardy Street. Sophie, we're going to talk about some movies today, and as the title suggests, movies that you would say have made part of who you are, or made up part of your experience of cinema love. And we've got 5 questions to ask, so I'll just rattle them off, and then we'll kick into the first one. So, the film that you've watched the most in your life, the film that you think anyone could enjoy, the film that you would suggest to a burgeoning cinephile, the film that you see yourself in. And I've left that quite open. You can kind of interpret that how you like. And favourite film of all time. Are there any caveats you'd like to share first before we dive into our first category?
Some of these I found very easy. The one that I really struggled with a lot was film that I see myself in. Yeah. And I guess the kind of the wanky artistic answer for that would sort of be, well, because I'm a performer and I'm an actor. And so for me, I can, I try to see a sense of myself in, most characters in most things. Yeah. Because really good storytelling means that you feel empathy for whatever journey a character is on. So I guess that's the wanky answer. But I guess the other answer is like, I've gone through quite a lot of change and upheaval in the last sort of year or two of my life. And so I've really struggled to think about, is this a film that I see myself in terms of who I am now? Or a film that I see myself in terms of looking back at a previous version of myself.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. I think it's worth saying as well, this is the 3rd time we've recorded this conversation. Not with you, but with different people on the podcast. So Dan, one of our guests, has come through, and Sarah and I had a chat with him. And in that one, Sarah and I shared bits of our own experiences and our own picks. William and I recorded a chat together at some point. And so I guess this is the 3rd time I've had this conversation. So I'll sort of share my tidbits as we go. It might be different from the past. But really interested to hear, how you've made sense of these questions. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. What is the film you have watched the most?
The film that I've watched the most is a film that I return to all the time because I just love it so, so much. And spoiler alert, it's my favorite movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, that seems kind of obvious to me. I'm like, well, of course the movie that I've watched the most is the one that I love the most. And for me, it is what I absolutely just adore, and it's Singin' in the Rain.
Nice.
I think Singin' in the Rain is a perfect piece of cinema. I have owned it so many times because I bought it on VHS when I was in my late teens. I then bought it again on VHS when I found like a 40th anniversary edition. I then bought it on DVD for the 50th anniversary edition. And I think I possibly bought it on DVD a second time as well. I just love that movie so, so much.
I can't wait for you to actually meet Sarah, because you know that her blog is, it's called Lena Lamont, I'm pretty sure. So she's a huge Singing in the Rain fan. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it many times.
She's very smart, so.
This is true. You both are. And I'm a huge Singing in the Rain fan, but I came to Singing in the Rain quite late in life. Like, I think I don't know if I was a student or kind of later as an adult, but definitely adult was when I encountered Singing in the Rain. So for people who don't know Singing in the Rain, give us a bit of an overview. What's the general gist of the film?
So Singing in the Rain ticks a lot of boxes for me personally, as well as within the cultural zeitgeist. Singing in the Rain is a musical, so ding, 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 big win for me. It is also a movie about Hollywood and about the magic of making movies. Ding, ding, ding. It is also a movie that has a beautiful love story, an incredibly clever comic subplot, some really cool catalysts in terms of actually historical things that were happening within the industry. Because essentially Singing in the Rain is charting the transition of Hollywood from silent films to talkies. So that's already a big deal. The stakes are very high. And within the story, you've got two very, very successful, well-liked film stars, a man and a woman, And they are going to make the transition from silent films to talkies. And it's revealed that this woman has like the most annoying voice you've ever heard.
What's the big idea?
Oh, and he can't stand him.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's just amazing. And this, it's funny, but it's also like, well, this is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a story that is actually still kind of ageless, even though it's sort of within a time capsule of what was happening. It's like, well, but that sort of stuff happens now, right? Like for people who have a public persona, if part of that public persona is really unlikable, then that means that their whole career could be tanked.
And technology is always changing.
Technology is always
and
changing.
People's kind of stake in things is always changing.
Oh yeah, and you've got elements of like there are people within the movie who are like afraid of the talkie technology, and they're like, this will never catch on. They're really resistant. You've got other people who are like, well, we got to jump on this now because if we're not early adopters, we'll get left behind. And then in comes Kathy Sheldon to save the day. So Kathy is an emerging artist. She wants to be a film star. She has a beautiful singing voice, a beautiful spoken voice. She's got a heart of gold. It's Debbie Reynolds, by the way.
Yeah.
And and so what happens is she ends up being sort of privately contracted secretly to record all of Lena Lamont's vocals, and it'll be dubbed. So it'll be Lena's face and Lena's acting, but it'll be Kathy's voice. And and it's beautiful and silly and joyous, and it's like gorgeous Technicolor and has stunning music in it. And
so the music's interesting, right? Because it's the music of Arthur Freeman, and it is kind of a greatest hits of his work from the last however many years.
Yeah.
And what I quite like about that element of it is that you can't actually access lots of the things that it's referencing. So a lot of the music that it's drawing from is from like Sunday serials and other films that we don't really watch anymore.
Yeah, well, it was of its, because the movie takes place in the 20s, like 20s, 30s, but it was actually made in the 50s.
Yeah.
So it's got this kind of like, beautiful sort of feel of the era that it's set in. And that was very common at the time, that you would take existing songs and then work them into a new story. So that's actually a lovely tip of the hat to kind of the style of music theater of the time.
Yeah. And it's kind of, that's really the end of the studio structure, right? Because after like around the 60s, things really started to change. So it is a celebration of a type of musical that we didn't really see. Because once you get to your Sound of Musics and your Olivers, which are kind of the end of the movie musical, that's a different...
It's a different
era.
flavor. Yeah, different era. And so the whole thing is a beautiful time capsule for musical theater, a beautiful time capsule for Hollywood and the love of movies. It's, it's a love letter, and it's beautiful.
The thing that stood out to me,
and great tap dancing. Oh my God,
Absolutely.
guys, the tap
Gene
dancing
Kelly.
is just like next level. Yeah, because Gene Kelly's just a master, and Donald O'Connor is a master, and it's so wonderful.
I think one of the things that stands out to me about that film when I first watched it, which I would have criticized the movie for, but now it's one of the things that it's like the weird chapter that keeps me kind of intrigued, is the whole fantasy sequence, the Broadway melody, is that the whole sequence?
Yeah.
That is way too long, in my opinion, which, like I said, would be a criticism. But now when I go back, I'm like, oh no, let's settle in. It's the abstract kind of chapter of the piece, right?
Okay, well, hold my beer.
Yeah.
So the thing about that, Jeremy, is, first of all, you're not wrong, because that's your opinion and that's totally fine. And do you know what? That was actually the opinion I had when I was a teen.
Yeah.
I would often fast forward through some of that. But historically, what you have to understand about the context of that sequence is that is the dream ballet. Yeah. So for any listeners who are less familiar with the structure of golden era musical theater, so the golden era refers to 20th century American musical theater that was existing sort of like across like the 40s. So the golden era, it specifically started with Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma, and then carried through until sort of like kind of, I guess, Hello Dolly in like 63. 64. And so within the golden era, a dream ballet sequence was actually very, very common. And the golden rule for musical theater is that when a character's emotional journey or emotional arc becomes so big, like too big for speech, that's when they sing. And when it becomes too big for any words, they dance. So the dream ballet sequence, like as a historical tool, that's what it's for. It's to convey emotion and to progress storytelling in a way that like is beyond words. So I guess if you look at it through that kind of lens, and then I guess, maybe also being an adult as opposed to just being a bit younger and having a slightly longer attention span, you can sort of appreciate what they're kind of trying to show and what they're trying to tell. From a cinematic perspective as well, there are things that they can show with dance because it's about the whole body and it's not about like a close-up shot of a face. You want to get like really wide and and so showing scale. So cinematically, there's also, I think there's reasons to kind of give that a little tip of a hat and some applause.
And I love it now, like you say, as an adult, or for me, a few watches in, because the kind of initial joy of the film hasn't been lost on me, but you're going back now to kind of mine new things you haven't seen before.
Yeah. And
there is an element of settling in and just appreciating the artistry of that sequence.
Yes, and the artistry is really, really supreme. I think also, it makes me sort of think a bit, I don't know if you've ever seen An American in Paris, which is another classic Gene Kelly musical film.
It's on the list. It's one of the classics I haven't got to. As a musical theatre fan as well, I'm like, I need to go to American Paris.
Well, look, no shame in coming to it late. I literally only saw it for the first time either last year or the year before, and I had been meaning to watch it for a very long time, and I'd actually owned it on DVD for a long time and just hadn't watched it. But quite famously, the ending sequence of that movie is like a 15-minute dance sequence with no dialogue, and that's the ending of the film.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was so groundbreaking at the time that it was done, because it was like, hang on, when was the last time somebody opened their mouth? Like that happened so long ago, and now the movie's ending. So that was it's amazing. I don't want to sort of give anything else away.
Cool, I need to see it. Yeah, I need to see it.
I'll be very excited to have a little debrief once you've watched that movie.
Yeah, nice, cool. Oh, Singing in the Rain. We're starting strong. Any last comments before we move on to our next category?
Singing in the Rain is a movie that, like I said, ticks a lot of boxes, but it's really joyous. It's fun. I would wager that just about anybody could watch that and just have a smile on their dial. It's a pretty great time. Yeah. Nice.
Cool. I agree. Absolutely agree. All right. Well, next category. What film do you think anyone can enjoy?
I mean, obviously, I think anybody can enjoy Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
But Singing in the Rain, it is a little bit niche, yeah? In terms of a movie that I think is universally accessible and really enjoyable for all ages. And I've got to really, really give a nod to my mum here, because we had a conversation yesterday and I told her that I was going to be coming up to Auckland today and see you, and that we were going to record this episode for the podcast. And this was her contribution. And I was like, oh my God, you've nailed it. School of Rock.
Brilliant.
It is. It's a brilliant film.
Yeah.
It's exceptionally well written. The casting is just dynamite. It's so much fun. Again, who could watch that movie and just not be grinning the whole time? Yeah.
And you've got some massive power players. I mean, apart from Jack Black and the cast you mentioned, you've got Mike White in there as Mr. Schneebly.
Oh, yeah.
You've got, Richard Linklater, right? It's his most accessible commercial film.
Richard Linklater is just a fucking genius, I tell you what. And one of the things that I think is so amazing about this, I read a really cool article, it was either last year or the year before, and it was because School of Rock was having an anniversary. And so I read this long interview sort of in Rolling Stone, and I really loved what was sort of referred to is that his mantra from the outset was, yes, it's a comedy. He was like, but we take this seriously. Yeah. So all the kids have got to be able to play these instruments. We're not faking it, because if these kids actually know how to play these instruments, then they're already going to be bringing something to these characters in terms of their level of dedication and their level of craftsmanship, and and the type of execution we're going to get on set, because they're going to have that level of focus and concentration. It's like, that's what I want. I want kids who are actually that good, and treating them all as artists, not sort of being like, well, here are the adults in the cast and here are the kids in the cast. Everybody got treated the same. And in this long article, the kids were being interviewed, and they're adults, and they were all sort of singing his praises and saying how great it was and what a positive experience they had.
I mean, they would be adults, right? They'd be like their 20s and 30s now, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah.
Hang on though. There would be.
I think School of Rock has just had like a 25-year anniversary.
So they'd be 35.
They'd
be our age.
They're like our age. Yeah.
Wow. I have not engaged in the musical, but have you seen the musical or know anything about the musical? Andrew Lloyd Webber did the music, right?
Yeah, so I've never seen the musical, but I love musical theater. I'm not a huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fan, and I'm also a comedian. So one of my favorite jokes is I like to refer to School of Rock, the musical, as Andrew Lloyd Webber's greatest rock musical.
Yeah.
which is very mean jibe at Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
But look, School of Rock is a very, very fun musical, because again, it captures that energy and that sort of the high stakes of like, oh, we gotta give it everything.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Nice, cool. Are the Richard Linklaters? You a fan of any of his other films?
I actually, it's funny. My relationship with Richard Linklater films is that actually a lot of them are on my, oh yeah, I gotta watch that list, and just like haven't gotten around to it. I really respect him as a filmmaker. I would say that if his other films are as good as School of Rock, then like...
His stuff's quite different to School of Rock. School of Rock is definitely his most sort of popcorn film.
I know, and this is what I'm seeing, is that it's like he's never really repeated that kind of genre.
No, he's like human interest is definitely his focus.
Human interest is the thing. And also I would argue that School of Rock is like, well, what is that genre?
Yeah.
Because is that a music film? Yes. Is it a family film? Yes. Is it a coming of age film? Yes. But it's like what genre would you put that in? Because I think a lot of people would see the PG rating and be like, oh, well, that's for kids. Nah, that's for everybody.
Have you seen his Before series?
No.
They're
all on my to watch. I'm like,
before
oh
sunrise,
yeah.
Before
sunset, after
before,
midnight.
After midnight, yeah.
Or before midnight? Before midnight?
Yeah. I think they're all before. They're all before.
Yeah, they must all be before.
So before midnight. They're brilliant. They all are great. The second one is the absolute pinnacle, but they're all great in their own right. Yeah. But very different films, They're each film is a series of conversations between two of the same characters, and there are the same characters 9 years apart in each film.
Oh, you don't have to explain it to me. I'm very aware. Like I said, they're all on my to-watch list.
Boyhood is the other one as well.
Yeah.
But and of course they're filming Merrily We Roll Along, which has been filming over a long period of time.
So this is, the joke I've been making since that got announced is like, okay, this is what's keeping me alive, because I got to be alive to see that finished product. Merrily We Roll Along is one of my most favorite musicals of all time. And I am so pumped to see that being given, such special, revered treatment by Richard Linklater. I'm like, oh, this makes me feel really, really safe about how that's going to be handled.
Yeah, true. Oh, cool. Well, School of Rock has a lot of fans. There are like it's like a classic one that people return to as family.
Who couldn't be a fan of it? It's so freaking good.
I need to see it again.
It's so good.
I haven't seen it recently enough to kind of have a clear rudder on it.
It's
so I need to go back
funny.
And watch it.
Oh my God, it's so great. And Joan Cusack just like firing on all cylinders. Yeah, and the soundtrack. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right, what is the film that you would suggest to a burgeoning cinephile?
Okay, so for me, when I think about kind of like a burgeoning cinephile, I guess the way I interpreted this question is I was thinking, okay, so somebody who wants to appreciate film in a way that's maybe more than just appreciating good storytelling. So somebody who is maybe starting to get interested in the technical elements of filmmaking and some of the some of the clever ways that like cinematography can be used. And I'm also thinking quite a bit about soundtrack and kind of how that gets woven in. So I'm not just thinking about story, and I'm not just thinking about casting. I'm thinking about kind of all those other elements, which in a great film, they're all great, right? But for me, I sort of narrowed it down to probably either Pulp Fiction, because I feel like it really conveys sort of all that stuff. I feel like it's like very clever storytelling and like good script and great casting, and some very like cool stuff has been done with cinematography and like the way the camera is used for storytelling and that use of soundtrack. And the other one that kind of really came to mind straight away for me was Guy Ritchie's Snatch, for the same reasons.
Yeah,
so
nice.
it's like really, really clever editing and like a banging script and a great cast and like a clever story and all these elements, and the soundtrack just slaps and it's so, so good. And again, I just think about accessibility, because I think ultimately if you're trying to get somebody interested in film, I think you've got to show them that something that feels very, very entertaining. That by the end of that they're like, oh, I want to watch it again.
And Snatch doesn't really get talked about anymore. Pulp Fiction is still very much
Snatch
the
does not
film.
get talked about enough. It is
Yeah.
such a good movie.
Yeah.
It is so, so great. Snatch is a movie that, like, I remember when it came out in, the early 2000s, and that would be a movie that, like when you think about sort of what you would spend to go rent a movie, I probably spent the most money renting that movie, because we just rented it all the time. It's so good.
And Snatch has Brad Pitt playing a role that is very different to the kind of good-looking leading man.
Totally, like very against type for
Yeah.
him, which is really great. And like,
Yeah.
and Jason Statham is so good in it.
Lots of actors that weren't big then but are now massive now.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
Does Snatch have? I think Pulp Fiction, obviously, story is out of order. Big part of what made that film interesting. Snatch, if I remember correctly, is there a flashback, or is there something that happens? What's the kind of turn that happens in that film? That's, again, spoilers for Snatch. What is the kind of thing? There's a gimmick in that film, if I remember.
Well, it's the interlacing of the different storylines with the different character groups.
Yeah, and they're all trying to get something, right? I'm trying to remember. Clearly, I haven't seen this film since 20 years ago when it came out.
because the dog swallows the diamond.
Yes.
And so it's all about like London gangsters and like
getting the dog.
Yeah, and they're like, all right, open the dog. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Diamonds in the dog. You got to open the dog. I'm not gonna. What? And because they've all got a heart of gold. Like, it's great. Like, I love that. Like, they do all this deplorable shit, and then they're like, I'm not gonna kill a dog.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not even gonna say the words in front of the dog. Like, yeah, no, it's so, so wholesome.
Well, both films as well have a code, right? They both
Yeah.
have. It's criminals with a code.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that made Pulp Fiction so interesting, is that we kind of saw into the lives of these criminals, and not just petty criminals. They are doing, hitmen, right?
Yeah.
Hitmen and boxers and things like that. I guess when I think about this question of a burgeoning cinephile, it's films that show how you can break the rules. And I think both of those films are really good examples about how really established filmmakers, because even Tarantino had quite a big film before that, are breaking the rules. And I mean, Pulp Fiction especially, changing the language of cinema.
Yeah.
I think about all the Snatch, you wouldn't have Snatch, I don't think, without Pulp Fiction.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think, some of the other things that are kind of exciting about Pulp Fiction are, I am quite a big Tarantino fan. I don't love all of his movies, but I definitely appreciate all of his movies.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that from a casting perspective with Pulp Fiction, he had such a clear vision of like who he wanted and how he wanted that story told, and sort of, his concept in terms of, it's got to be John Travolta, and that's who I want. I want this person who has had this very successful career younger, and we haven't seen for a while, and that was so important to him in terms of like how it would then affect the audience to see his character. Yeah, and I think that's really smart.
He had to fight for John Travolta as well. The studio did not want him in the film.
He loves a fight, though. He fights all the time.
I also think about that movie, it's really easy to forget the supporting cast. You've got Christopher Walken in there, you've got Harvey Keitel. There's just a range of incredible actors in that film. Obviously, Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis and John Travolta and Uma Thurman are the big ones. But it is just full of incredible actors. Yeah. It's such a good film.
Oh, this is like the epitome of no small parts, right? Like actually in a movie, sometimes there are small parts, but you can make them so memorable, you know? Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
So what Tarantino, because Tarantino's my favorite, what are the ones that you like and what are the ones that you just appreciate?
I guess, I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really didn't love.
Yeah, I agree.
And which kind of caught me by surprise because I was really, really amped to see it.
Yeah.
Especially because of like the historical context and this aspect of like real people. I was very, very jazzed about that. And then I felt that it was probably about 25 minutes too long.
I agree.
I felt that there were a couple of sequences that could have been severely edited down, like really cut shorter, or maybe didn't have to be included. And I hated the ending. It wasn't just that the ending caught me by surprise. It did. Got to give credit where credit's due. But I actually just really didn't like it. I was like, I feel like you've kind of, I felt like you sort of played a trick on me that I didn't like.
My issue with that movie, what I will say about that film is I think the performances of the two leads are brilliant, and I think that
he captured the era. He captured the era
sequence,
flawlessly.
like that whole sequence in the ranch where you
yeah,
think,
wow.
I was like, Brad Pitt's character's going to get killed at this ranch, you know, and it was so thrilling.
That foreboding sense of like doom, of like danger, and Tarantino does a great job of making the viewer uneasy when that serves the story. Like, masterful.
And I thought that was brilliant. For me, the story, you know Sharon Tate's going to be killed because that's what happened, right?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you know she's going to get killed. But if you don't know that because you don't know the history, then why is she in the film?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you need to do homework to watch a movie, and I don't like that. Whereas if you think about Inglourious Basterds,
which is just amazing.
For me, it's the pinnacle of his career. You don't need to know the fate of Hitler to appreciate the ending of that film.
Oh my God, yeah.
There is an added layer.
Masterful.
There's an added layer of surprise if you do.
Yeah.
But the Sharon Tate presence in the film makes no sense.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes, and this is what I mean. This is what I mean about how I felt like he played a trick on us, and I was like, well, this isn't making me feel like, oh, you're so clever. This is like kind of making me feel dumb.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me feel good.
What I do like...
And like, why did I pay money to see this? Like, yeah.
I do like that... because I think part of me was feeling nervous about seeing that murder on screen, right? And exploitative. And I did love that in his film, Sharon Tate was there in living colour. And there was this real celebration of her work because there's literally shots of her work, not Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
Like that moment when Margot Robbie's watching her is so great. But at the end of the day, there's no reason for her to be in the movie apart from him serving that, which is not the same as serving the story.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, Karen, so that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Inglourious Basterds, loved. Is it in the loved camp?
Loved.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed The Hateful Eight.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and I know not everybody did.
I did enjoy it. I felt that was too long, and I felt that he'd started to mine his bag of tricks that he'd already been using. Like the camera going under the floorboards in Inglourious Basterds. He kind of reused it again in Hateful Eight.
But I actually loved that he reused it because I felt like it was really effective.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so it like didn't bother me. You know, I was like, look, as somebody who can't do a cartwheel, if a kid does a cartwheel, I'm going to be impressed. And if I see them do it again, the next time I see that kid, I'm still going to be impressed. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, you take that camera out of the floorboards. Do it. Yeah.
I did love the Ennio Morricone score. I just thought it was just masterful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also really loved... just in terms of painting a portrait, he does this really well where he like picks a specific time period, a time and a place in America, and then creates this like very vivid portrait of what life is like in that time. And so I just thought that was really, really quite beautiful and amazing. And I guess probably particularly because I'm not a person who grew up watching a lot of Westerns, so that's not something that I have like lots of... I don't have lots of sort of nostalgia for. So yeah, so part of the reason why I liked Hateful Eight was because I was like, oh, this is a very different flavor, you know, because we're seeing this kind of like frontier, and yeah, so I thought that was cool. And I thought the female characters in that movie were wonderful.
Jennifer Jason Leigh was just
very
so good.
three-dimensional, which was
Yeah.
really exciting, and all of them really progressing the storyline and lots of them, you know, for a Tarantino film, which doesn't sort of always happen. So I thought that was also very cool.
Cool.
I don't know if I would call it a feminist film, but I think, yeah, I thought the way women got to exist in that movie was awesome.
Cool. Django Unchained?
Loved Django Unchained. That was a movie that I think was also maybe a little bit too long.
I agree.
But it didn't make me kind of have itchy feet while I watched it. It was just sort of once it finished, I was like, oh gosh, that was a bit.
I think it's that
longer than I
moment where
expected.
they've had the big shootout, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
And then the movie keeps going, and then Tarantino turns up with a terrible Australian
I
accent.
know, and I thought it was ending. This was actually the thing about Django Unchained, is that there were probably 2 moments in the movie where I thought it was about to end, and then it didn't end.
Yeah.
And so the first time that happened, you're like, oh, there's more. And then the second time, I'm like, why is there more?
Yeah.
Is this just that, you know, did somebody just write a really good script and they couldn't edit it down? I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I think he intended to end the film there, but then
Yeah.
didn't want to end the film there from a character perspective,
Yeah.
which I can see that.
I can see that too.
But yeah, my thing with Tarantino is that Sally Menke, who was his long-standing editor and sadly passed away after Inglourious Basterds, she, I think, was part of the secret sauce. And his new editor, which was her assistant editor, perhaps doesn't
Didn't have the touch.
stand up to him. I think you'd say
Yeah,
you'd
well,
say yes
he's
to
a
Tarantino.
big personality. I mean, what we know about it, look, we're talking about Quentin like we know him personally.
Yeah.
But I just think what we know about his oeuvre of work, and yeah, like he is a guy with a very specific vision about how things are going to be, and sometimes that really pays dividends, and sometimes maybe that just means he bullies his editor.
Death Proof,
I've actually never seen Death Proof.
one of my favorite. I love Death Proof.
Yeah.
It is so schlocky, and Zoe Bell is not a good actor, but
See,
I
this is the
love
thing,
it.
because I'm aware of how much you like Death Proof, and I'm also aware of your description of those two things. Like, I've heard you say that before.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you're not selling it to me.
I guess because it was made as like a grindhouse exploitative sort of
Yeah,
homage.
and it's just not my genre. I'm like, fuck, I've got all these Richard Linklater movies to watch. Why am I going to waste time watching Death Proof?
I guess if you want to see women done well in Death Proof, in Tarantino films, watch that. And then at least you can say whether you agree or not. Okay, Kill Bill.
Yeah, really enjoyed Kill Bill.
That's my favourite. I think Inglourious Basterds is his best, but Kill Bill Volume 1 in particular is like the one that made me fall in love with Tarantino.
Nice.
Jackie Brown?
I've never seen Jackie Brown.
Brilliant.
Or maybe I
Brilliant
have and
film.
I've forgotten. Actually, look, as soon as the words left my mouth, I was like, maybe I have seen Jackie Brown. I feel like maybe I have. Well, it's not memorable.
And number 1, Reservoir Dogs. The Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, really enjoyed Reservoir Dogs, and it's interesting because I almost would have said Reservoir Dogs would be the
For
film.
the one everyone can enjoy? No.
Well, for burgeoning cinephile, there's a lot to really love about Reservoir Dogs, and there's a lot about Reservoir Dogs that I think lends itself to kind of being a film to be studied. But Reservoir Dogs, I think, has a very specific flavor, and if I'm going to recommend something to a burgeoning cinephile, I'm going to pick something that I feel like is kind of a bit more universal in terms of being enjoyed.
There's a raspy edge to Reservoir Dogs that is, like, you're correct. It takes a certain mindset to kind of get into it.
And here's the thing about Reservoir Dogs, right? Is that Reservoir Dogs is a film that I saw, was very affected by, thought it was very masterfully done, really enjoyed it. I've never watched it again.
Yeah.
And I don't think I need to. Whereas I've seen Pulp Fiction, like probably half dozen times,
Reservoir Dogs worth watching for Tim Roth's performance, kind of alone.
Oh, God,
Because
yeah,
he's
he's
just
so good.
incredible in it. And he...
Look, like, actually, I think in general, the cast right across the board is really great. But yeah, but Tim Roth gets like the most screen time. So yeah, of course you're so enamored with his portrayal.
Nice. Pulp Fiction and Snatch. Cool. What is a film you see yourself in?
God, I really struggled with this, Jeremy.
How did you interpret the question?
Well, as I sort of mentioned at the top of our recording session, I've struggled in terms of like, am I seeing myself now in terms of who I've kind of the version of myself that I've become just over all of my trials and tribulations over the last couple of years? Or am I sort of looking back and seeing a previous version of myself? I tried to approach this a couple different ways. I was like, I've always sort of hoped that Natalie Portman would play me in a movie of my life, so maybe I'll just go back through her catalog. And I was like, Black Swan. No, definitely not that one. Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, I guess a reinterpretation of that question is like, how do I see myself? I see myself as a very like strong, vibrant, independent woman. I see myself as somebody who is, who really like prioritizes relationships and friendships and has a lot of, gives a lot of time and energy to the important people in my life. And I love to build community and make connections. So, I
just want to back that up, by the way, listeners. That is how I see Sophie as well. So you're on point.
So maybe I'm Elle Woods.
Yeah, maybe.
Fighting for social justice.
Is that what you're going for?
I guess. I mean, I'm not a blonde, but I feel like spiritually I'm kind of closely aligned with Elle Woods.
Nice. So Legally Blonde is the film you see yourself most in?
Yeah.
This is amazing. And we're going with number 1, not number 2? I've never seen number 2, so I don't know.
Number 2's good.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near as good as number 1.
I believe they're making a number 3 as well.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Look, the other thing that I thought about a bit in terms of through that same sort of angle of like, my journey is that I get by with a little help from my friends, and I lean on people who are close to me. I've gone through some big disappointments in my life and some big kind of turning points in my life. So I actually do see myself quite closely aligned with Jessie from Toy Story 2.
Oh, cool. Another Joan Cusack connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Legally Blonde and Jessie in Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Which one do you want to stick on? I want to talk about one of these. Which one do you want to stick with?
Well, let's talk about Toy Story 2.
Okay, cool.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
It is truly, I think, in my opinion, and like, don't come for me, fans of The Godfather, but like, I think it's the best example of a sequel being better than the original. Whereas the original was very good. Like, Toy Story is a great movie. But
See,
Toy
for me,
Story
Toy
2,
Story 3 is even better. That's for me.
I didn't say it wasn't, Jeremy. I'm just saying 2 is better than 1. Yeah.
All right. I love those films. I think I do enjoy Toy Story 1 more than Toy Story 2.
Really?
Yeah, but that's not to say I don't think Toy Story 2 is not at the same level as Toy Story 1. Yeah. I think Toy Story 1 for me was the one that blew my mind in terms of feature-length animation, yeah. CGI films, as well as being a brilliant story. The buddy flick really got me,
Oh, yeah.
But I love Toy Story 2, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, well, Toy Story 2 has a much more even balance in terms of like portrayal of female characters as fully formed. So that's very exciting. Obviously, you've got Kelsey Grammer, which is great. Yeah, and I think the hero's journey arc in Toy Story 2 is way, way more grand and more compelling than in number 1.
Nice. So Jessie, obviously the discarded doll, right? Is that why you relate to her? Or is there a more hopeful element to her character that sticks out to you?
I mean, all of it. She went through the pain of being discarded and not feeling like she could find that level of support or happiness or, love and family again. And then, she did find it, or it found her, which is really special. And that sensation of, being part of a community, having others rally around you and say, well, actually life will be better. Like, don't stay in a box. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Elle Woods, Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
She goes through... What I like about Elle Woods as well is that her trials to others seem trivial, but to her are world-shattering.
Well, she's used to being underestimated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's I guess she's discarded as well, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's seen in one very specific way, but she's very smart, she's very capable, and she transforms herself. And what's cool about her journey is that she starts that transformation with a very warped sense of motivation in terms of like she's kind of doing it for the wrong reasons. And then what ends up happening is actually she just becomes a much more fully formed version of herself. So she kind of ends up becoming the best version of herself.
That is such a good script. That is such a good film.
Oh,
Legally
it's
Blonde
amazing.
is so good. And Save the Cat, the book Save the Cat, about film writing, he talks about that being one of the greatest film titles. Like just so simple, but it tells you exactly what you're getting. Plus it's a pun.
I would love wordplay.
And the musical's great, right? We were talking about it earlier tonight.
The
how
musical's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the musical just slaps hard.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess we come to a favourite film of the year, which you've already told us, your most watched film of the year.
No, of all time.
Of all time, sorry. Favourite film of the year. Favourite film of all time. We're recording this at a time where I'm actually preparing for our end of year 2025 wrap up. So I've got film of the year in my brain. Favourite film of all time, Singing in the Rain. Any last comments you'd like to make about the greatest film of all time?
Singing in the Rain is just such a beautiful, beautiful story, and it's exquisitely told. It's got lots of gorgeous layers. It's like a babushka doll, you know? It's like you keep, for me anyway, each time I revisit it, I see, you know, like a new thing to enjoy or appreciate. It's got these lush, you know, old Hollywood musical sequences, which is really fun. But then what makes it even more fun is you're like seeing the behind the scenes of how they film them, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, and like big costumes, and Gene Kelly is so great. And, you know, for a dancer, he's got such muscular arms. Like, yeah, he's the full package.
Yeah. Full package with a package. I also think about my favourite film of all time, Alien, which I have a poster of in my living room right now, which Ripley sings Lucky Star as she is ejecting the alien from the ship. So we've got a connection there between our favourite movies, you know?
Well, we both love a feminist film. What can we say?
It's true. Well, on that note, thank you.
Well, before we wrap up, I really want to make an honourable mention to a film.
Go.
I want to make an honourable mention to a film which is definitely in my like top 5 favourite movies, and I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't figure out a way to talk about it because it didn't sort of fit exactly within the categories that you'd given me, but I was like, no, we have to talk about it. And that is probably a film that I've just been so unbelievably affected by from when I very first saw it, and it was so immediate. I was like, this is one of the best films I've ever seen, and I was devastated when it did not win the Oscar for Best Picture, and that is Promising Young Woman.
Oh, nice. We've talked about this before, haven't we?
I just think that movie is such a masterpiece. And I'm thrilled that Emerald Fennell won an Oscar for screenplay for that film. I have not recovered from the fact that she did not win Best Director and that it did not win Best Picture, because I just think it is a masterpiece.
What film won Best Picture that year?
Nomadland.
Okay, which I did
And
like
Best
that
Director.
movie. I did like that film.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it was not Best Picture material in my book.
Have I talked to you about Promising Young Woman, my perspective on it?
No.
So, spoiler alert for this movie. I loved that movie. I was loving it up until, I think we have talked about this, up until a certain moment near the end.
Oh, we have talked about this.
Yeah.
and we disagreed.
Yeah.
And that's why I wiped it from my memory.
And I think the fact that, you know, you either accept that ending or you don't, and that will kind of colour what the film's trying to say.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate what the film is trying to say with that choice. The Kill Bill lover in me, you know, wanted to see a different ending.
Yeah.
But I get it. I do get it.
Well, look, I mean, not to play the gender card, but I feel
Play the
like,
gender card, because I think that's the obvious thing, right? Female director versus
yeah,
male
and
director.
I think that maybe the difference in terms of the way you and I have approached the material, in terms of, you know, that turning point where I fell more in love with it and you were like, oh, it's not working, maybe has a lot to do with the fact that our difference in gender means that we've had different experiences in the world. So for me, that ending wasn't far-fetched.
I wouldn't say it wasn't far-fetched. It was just, for me, not what I wanted. But then but I think what your point is really good. And I think my female friends who love films have loved that ending.
Yeah.
And so that's telling me something, right?
Yeah.
So I hear you. And I think...
I just thought that movie was a masterpiece. Just really, really beautifully made and very, very cleverly written, and the use of color within that film. Like there's some really, really cool kind of like storytelling kind of elements in there about sort of like the visual story that's happening in front of us. And yeah, it has really, really stayed with me.
The scene that sticks with me the most is when she's having the meeting with the dean. Mm-hmm. And the dean is sort of blasé, and then she reveals that she's given her daughter's details to someone. I don't even quite remember, but I remember she flips it.
Yeah, she flips it, and then it's revealed that she also has the daughter's cell phone, so the dean can't reach her daughter.
Yeah.
So actually, there's an element of like danger and potentially compromised personal safety in a way that is suddenly very personal. Yeah.
Oh, I need to rewatch that movie again.
It's so good.
Emerald Fennell, she's doing Wuthering Heights with Charlie XCX doing the score, I believe. Which is going to be fun. But she's sort of emerging as a bit of a powerhouse in the cinema stratosphere. I mean,
I really, really, really enjoyed
Saltburn
so much. I thought that was awesome, actually. I thought that was a really, really clever film, but not clever in a way where it was just like, oh, look at me, I'm so clever. I was just like, wow. My jaw dropped. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Speaking of jaw dropping, sorry, I'm just like, we're going to slide in one more,
nice.
Jeremy. But another film that I think is just a masterpiece and is really, really incredible. And I tell you what, I feel like anybody who listens to your podcast will have already seen it, but just in case they haven't, if you're like me and you end up with a big to watch list and not enough time, Parasite is one of the greatest films of all time.
I agree.
That movie just spun me on my axis, and I watched it alone. And as soon as, I mean, you'll remember this, Jeremy, as soon as I finished watching it, I had probably a minute or two of just like silence, just sitting and just thinking about what I just witnessed. And then I immediately was like on the phone to you, like sending you voice notes.
Had I told you about it? Had I kind of suggested it to you?
Oh, I knew that you had seen it, and
Yeah.
I think I don't recall you sort of saying anything more than like, have you seen it? And I was like, no, I'm going to watch it. I just haven't got there yet. And then I was just like, oh my god, Jeremy, I've just had this very intense experience. I finally watched Parasite, and it's so brilliant, and I'm very emotional, and it's amazing, and yeah.
I think that's the last time Sarah, William, and I all agreed on Film of the Year.
I'm not surprised.
And when, because we watched that and we compared it with Snowpiercer.
Flawless.
It is amazing. And when it won the Best Picture, unheard of, like a non-English speaking film winning the American Best Picture.
Yeah.
But my gosh, that movie is good. It is, when it turns, it's like this comedic farce, class farce.
Talk about being a babushka doll, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like these layers being revealed. It was, what a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
and that's a great place to leave, I reckon. So thank you so much for joining us again on the podcast.
My pleasure.
And can't wait to have you back as a guest talking about 2 movies sometime in the future. Hopefully more of the Parasite side of things, less of the Furiosa.
Hopefully a musical.
Hey, true.
Kia ora, Jeremy from the present here again. No longer the version of me from almost a year ago. I thought I'd just jump in here and say that a couple of days after we recorded what you just listened to, Sophie had a bit of a revelation, which tends to happen after you've bared your soul for all to hear. And she decided to add a little coda to one of the categories of what we talked about. So I received this voice memo a few days later, and I checked in with Sophie before posting this version of our conversation, and she said, look, I would love it if you could include this in the chat. So here you go. This is what Sophie said to me via Messenger a couple of days after our recording.
Good morning, Jeremy. I hope you are well. Now, look, as is often the case, I have thought of something now that we've already recorded the podcast episode. I just needed longer to marinate. So you know how I struggled with the film that I see myself in? I think I actually have finally figured it out for real. I think it's Amélie. I like to live my life with a certain amount of whimsy and a huge amount of optimism. And I think that that the spirit of that film and the spirit of that character actually really encapsulates a lot of who I am and what I stand for. So yeah, sorry, this is in hindsight, but hindsight's 2020.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema in Context. If you enjoy our podcast, then please share it with your film-loving friends. You can listen to Cinema in Context on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and where all great podcasts can be found. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Let us know on those platforms what you think of this episode, as well as suggestions of future films to discuss and compare. Look out for our next episode, back with the crew in a month's time. And until then, noho ora mai.